What up, YouTube? Alright, so we got a new brew today, and it's going to be Grixis Haste. I showcased this one on my podcast last week. If you were kind enough to support that, thank you very much. If not, please go support it. I would appreciate it. But yeah, so Grixis Haste is kind of centered around this card right here, Frostcliff Siege, and this pretty much gives you two different modes here. It's from Tarkir. Teamer, creatures you control get +1/+0 and have trample and haste. This brew was something that I kind of built back in last season and also had it pre-rotation. So it's definitely been around for a while. I've seen a lot of different content creators kind of take this brew and do a bunch of different things with it. But yeah, so I brewed it pretty much immediately after Edge of Eternity drop for Anticausal Vestige, and I've had a lot of fun with it. So I've been playing a couple different versions of Grixis this season, and this one in particular I've had a lot of fun with, and I have it on MTGO. Probably going to play some links with it soon. Maybe I'll share some of that content as well. But yeah, so whole point here is, you know, maybe get on the board a little early. We got Cecil here, we got Brynhildr, so a couple Final Fantasy cards coming in clutch here, and we also have Kefka to kind of round out the top end here. Decent card, especially when it has haste, so we can draw a card, discard a card, attack, draw a card, discard a card. We also have Riddler here, so you can put that kind of in the 2-drop slot as well. This on MTGO is like $50, so when I post that content, probably not going to have Riddler in there because I don't want to spend the money on that. And what you can do if you don't have Riddlers is you can just either add another Boilerbilge, add another Kefka, add another Dragonhawk. I think what I'm doing with this on MTGO is I just have 3 of these. So 3-3-3 split on the Oildeep Gearhulk, Dragonhawk, and Boilerbilge, and you're good to go. So what Vestige allows you to do with Frostcliff Siege, obviously along with Warp on Riddler, is you can warp these in, you can attack with haste and trample. So that gives you an 8/5 trampler with haste that allows you to put one of these big boys into play. Overlord of the Boilerbilge allows you kind of do the same thing. You get to ETB, deal 4, swing, deal 4 to any target, have a 6/5 haste trampler. Oildeep Gearhulk 5/4 haste trampler. But yeah, the whole point of this is to play Vestige and then put any of these guys in play, and it's pretty good. So if you're on turn 4 and you just play Vestige, you can put another Frostcliff Siege in play, which is always good. You can play Cruelclaw with haste, which is also pretty good because you can play any of these guys for free, including any of your removal, whatever you want to do. Cruelclaw wasn't in my initial build of this. I had Preacher of the Schism there, but Cruelclaw is just a little bit more explosive, demands a lot more interaction, whereas I want to keep some of this other stuff alive. Slasher, obviously with Trample and Haste, is very good because he has Death Touch, so he'll just kind of smash through and like deal lethal out of nowhere. Then on our sideboard, we have a couple of nulls for VIVI, Duress, Intimidation Tactics. These are all kind of for control in VIVI. We have Fire Magic for Dimir. We have Ghost Vacuum for VIVI. We have Strategic Betrayal for VIVI. We have a Brave for VIVI. So obviously, this deck's worst matchup is VIVI. We have a bunch of removal and stuff that we can deal with mono red pretty easily here. If I would change anything here, it'd probably be Intimidation Tactics. Like you might be able to take one of these out and then add like more Shoot the Sheriffs or Bitter Triumph. Probably would go Bitter Triumph or like maybe some more counter spells. When the meta changes, we can add in some more counter spells so we can like kind of for sure hit like some control and stuff like that. But for the most part, it's not really there. So yeah, enjoy the gameplay, and if you have the wild cards to try this deck out, obviously I'm daddy dollars here with all my styles on Grixis because I just play mostly Grixis. Yeah, and I'll have another brew coming up pretty soon. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. All right, so let's hop into the match here. Okay, so Only got one land to deal with here. Gonna have to mull that. I don't want to mull again, so we will keep this. Send back a swamp, whatever. Could have sent back an island there, but anyways, I'd rather keep 5 lands in this pile because you can always use more lands when casting really expensive stuff. So we're okay with this. In theory. Of course, if I just draw lands off the top only, this could be really bad. I don't know. I don't currently know what my opponent's playing, so they are currently roping me though. Not a great look for them, but you know what? We will be civil. All right, so they're roping me. So we're gonna start out with the Watery Grave. Let's kind of think through our next couple turns here. We're just going to kind of play into this slasher, hopefully draw more stuff at the top. Ideally, we can find a Vestige. Frostcliff Siege, always a really good card to hit off the top there. Especially if we hit Siege after Slasher or before Slasher. What's really cool about Siege is that you can kind of like offset it a little bit. Okay, so we just drew another land. Luckily, we're on the play, so we're not like gonna be super behind by being flooded out like this. So we're just gonna keep playing our starting towns out and play our Slasher, move on from there. Okay, so we're playing, is it VIVI, except we're playing Artist Talent Edition. All right, so they can torch the tower here. They do have to sack their talent. But you know what? Might be worth it. Luckily, sack cost doesn't allow them to trigger the talent. I don't know if they knew that or not, but yeah, we get a turn to play Vestige here. We have 8 lands. Not ideal. I'm not gonna lie. Not ideal. All right, so we ended up drawing a Frostcliff Siege, which pretty much makes every single top deck super good now. So the Vestige was a great choice there. Also a pretty good hit. Another really cool thing about Vestige is it just puts permanents into play. I can put a land if I wanted to there. That's why I wasn't worried, because I did have like the sewers, so I could have like surveilled or something. But drawing the Siege there, really good, because now I can just haste anything I get off the top. And all of a sudden I have the upper hand in this matchup. I know this because Izzet doesn't really have that much to deal with my big chunkers. So they can flood maw, whatever, you know, hit me with the credit card. Flood maw is $5 now. It's silly. This town ain't big enough. It's also similar in price, but okay. So we drew another land. It's land number 9. Let's hit some bangers off the top. Let's get a banger here. That's a banger. So we're gonna play that Boilerbilge, and I think that should lock the game up. Just this one card by itself. They would have to flood my Frostcliff Siege here in order to not allow me to go off with this. Okay, Soul Cauldron's pretty annoying. That would have made the Slasher kind of lose some of its value, because on the stack, when Slasher's ability pops up, they could just exile from the graveyard. Similar to all the Curiosities, Glimmer cards. They go to the graveyard first, and then they come back to the battlefield. Okay, so we're gonna kill their dude. Don't want them to have anything. They are playing profs, so they can play Winter Night Stories and then, you know, get a bunch of power. They could have a VIVI. This is a VIVI deck. I think they only play like 3 VIVIs, something like that. All right, so we're gonna get in for 10 to their face. Could have gotten for 14, but yeah, I'm not gonna let them have any tokens. So pretty much any like 6-drop, 5-drop is banger off the top. So let's hit one of those. I also have a Vestige in Warp Zone here, so you can also just play that off the top if we don't draw something I want. Okay, so opponent has to have some type of interaction. They need another body, but we have trample. A Quantum Riddler is pretty good. So that's a 4/6, gonna become a 5/7. So they'll be able to trade with this Boilerbilge. I'm pretty sure that's their whole point of playing this out. Yeah, so that's a 5/7 now because they draw a card, Profs puts a counter on it. Ooh, and we draw the Boilerbilge. So now we get to hard cast this, hit the Riddler, and get in and kill the Riddler on swing. So then we have just lethal. So this is just lethal. So we only have 2 Boilerbilge in the deck. Obviously, we could add more. I think it's probably correct to add more. Eventually, I might add more. Yeah, this deck is literally mirroring how I built it in paper, as well as how I have it on MTGO minus the Riddlers. Because MTGO Riddler is like $50 right now. So I'm not going to spend that up for MTGO, unfortunately. Alright, so we can cut a Gearhulk here. I do want to get a couple of nulls in because we want to deal with like Cauldron as he comes out. Obviously, ton of 1 mana like interaction here, so we didn't really see anything other than a couple Storm Chasers and a Riddler, so I'm not really sure how to sideboard against them. We know they have VIVI, so Torch the Tower might not be super good here. Torch the Tower is pretty good in this deck because we can sack Brynhildr for it, and I'm never really sacking my sieges, so just want to sack the Brynhildr for that. Cruelclaw, we might be able to cut 1. We just want to high roll with this card like once, and then it becomes like super good. Duress is pretty good. Again, like a lot of this 1 mana interaction, we don't want to keep drawing over and over, so I think we're going to go in with the Braids as well. Want to get both the Braids in there, get a couple 1 mana interaction spells. Yeah, we'll try to run it back. Obviously, they can kind of tempo us out. We haven't seen everything they have, so they can probably play something a little bit better on the play here. Again, they've roped us in game 1, so hopefully they get a little bit more aggressive and don't like rope us again. All right, so they go Riverpyre Verge into the Mako, which is pretty good play. We're just gonna have to play out Brynhildr here. Hope that it survives so we can play our Slasher with haste. All right, so they get in. One mana up. So let's go Brynhildr. We drew a Shoot the Sheriff. Does not kill the Mako because Mako's a pirate, and that would be an outlaw. Alright, so they have the Torch for the Brynhildr. Kind of a bummer. We also lose a Cecil there. Cecil's a pretty good early play. In this deck, Cecil is really good against control. It can also be really good against like mono green, other random shit like that, where you possibly want to like block really big things that don't have trample or do have trample, that you're having trouble like killing because they have protection or whatever reason. So technically this opponent has protection right now because I have a Shoot the Sheriff in hand. It becomes a little bit awkward when they have Mako. Didn't know they had the Mako, but now I do. I should have assumed that because of Artist Talent. I don't really remember this whole build. I don't think it's a great deck, but it is still a VIVI deck, so it is still pretty scary. I would say it's still good because of that. And then we're playing more of a brew. This is more... Their deck is a brew as well, but it's definitely on the higher end of brews, I would say. So this is the only thing we can do right now to interact with this Mako. Obviously, like I said in game 1, the Soul Cauldron can just exile the Slasher on the stack. Yeah, so now we have to Shoot the Sheriff here. Not sure if I want to let them get in with this Winter Night Stories. Even if they do play VIVI here, I'm not killing it because of the fact that it can just go under Cauldron. So we're always killing this token. VIVI is allowed to live. Which is a crazy, crazy choice. You have to make this choice though, because VIVI is just so good. And there it is. There's the VIVI. So you cannot kill VIVI when they have a Cauldron because it makes everything else they do for the rest of the game that much better. So now they do have a thing in the graveyard, which is the Mako. 2 mana up, play profs. Alright, so now they have a 3/6 VV. That's another egregious part about VV is the amount of toughness it has. It becomes almost impossible to kill. I would have much preferred this card to be like a 0/2. It would have been a lot easier to deal with. This pretty much makes like red like not able to deal with VV when VV actually is just on the field and they pump it up. Pretty much always have to like combo kill it. And unfortunately I have the Abrade now, which would have been good like a couple turns ago, but now unfortunately this is where we're at. If they have any way to deal with this Kefka, Kefka's not a bad card here. I just drew like 3 cards, so unfortunately I didn't draw any interaction for this VV, so if they kill Kefka, I lose the game, and that's okay. Why do I lose the game? Because they can pretty much make this VV infinite power here. Alright, so let's just go next game. They high rolled a bit. I'm not dead on board, but I'm pretty dead. They had 5 mana up, they can Winter Night Stories, and then put a bunch of counters on the VV. So it's fine, you know, we just go back to the drawing board here. Let's cut the Cecil. Yeah, cut the Riddlers. Maybe go in with like a couple more like interaction spells for their hands. I like the tactics a little bit more because they have a bunch of like creatures and stuff. And like Cauldron I just want to deal with. Ghost Vacuum is good against Cauldron, but it's also really good against Talent and Winter Night Stories, so we're gonna just put one of those in. Again, if I draw my one mana interaction spells, it's less good than having them in my starting hand. Yeah, but I'm not really at liberty to mull for them. You just kind of need to high roll them in your opening hands. Again, this is why the VV decks make it so hard to like sideboard, because you need to have so many of the same sideboard card in order to see it in your starting hand. So I'm never mulling for these things. But yeah, so anyways, it's okay. We're on the play again. We won the coin flip at the beginning of the game, so we do have a little bit of an upper hand here. Yeah, we got Slasher. We don't have any haste here, but we still have a lot of really good cards to play. Alright, so we have Slasher, we have Shoot the Sheriff and Abrade now, so we can deal with the Cauldron, we can deal with VV. Yeah, so this is where we want to be. We want to be able to deal with the Cauldron and the VV. This is one of the reasons why I believe in Grixis, is because it can deal with artifacts, and artifacts are a little bit more prevalent than enchantments. If you were ever like scared of enchantments as well, black can deal with those, so it kind of fills in all of its gaps here. You have Withering Torment in the format. I'm not sure if Youth's Swarm got reprinted, but might have. I don't know. Foundations put a lot of random stuff in the format, so if you're ever like, is that legal? You have to check. Foundations put in cards that are like, you know, almost 20 years old, so you never know what's in the format. Okay, so we're going to just kind of play through that Flood Maw and, you know, do the thing. Let's get back in with the Slasher before we do anything. Alright, so we're swinging. They have a 1/1 blocker. They could just torch it and block. Or sack their token, torch. Okay, Broadside Barrage. I'm not really afraid of that. So we'll let that happen. Slasher comes back. 2-for-1's them. Let's get in with the Vestige here, I think. Not. We want to play the Gearhulk, but we want to definitely draw a card as well. Drawing cards is good, turns out. So play the Vestige, draw a card, put Gearhulk in play. You can also draw Kefka here. Brynhildr also is a decent choice to put into play here. I don't want to exile a card that like I lose from it, so I want to make sure that we play Brynhildr next turn. And then I'm never blocking this token because they can like combo with something else, and they're flooded, so we don't want to make it really easy to deal with this. But yeah, they're in our spot from game 1. But we were still able to pull it out because we had some very, very good top decks, even though we were like 10 lands deep. It's whatever. So we have a 4/4 lifelinker they have to deal with. If I were them, I would just go and level up this talent here, grab back Barrage, and then kind of move on from there. Not really anything else to do here. You have 2 lands in hand, 1 unknown card. Yeah, so if they like had VIVI here, I would still do that. Because then next turn you can like play Barrage and have VIVI. Okay. It's not really that big of a decision. Okay, so their mystery card was another Storm Chaser. So them thinking about this didn't really make that much sense, but I guess it's a scary decision. So we're going to see them probably get back the Barrage here. Yep, they get the Barrage back. So if they're very smart, they will kill the Gearhulk next turn. If they're not so smart, they kill the Brynhildr or the Slasher. Because me gaining life here is way more important. Slasher is pretty scary, yes. But that would be one of the most expensive 2-for-1s that you can possibly do. Because Slasher's already been hit by this Barrage. So spending 3 mana plus 4 from the Storm Chaser talent, that's 7 mana plus another 3. That's 10 mana to just do the same thing twice to 1 card. This is why Slasher's so good. Because over the course of many turns, they'll have to deal with this card. They might even put a bunch of bodies in front of it. It just eats up boards. So yeah, they have another talent here. Obviously, they feel comfortable right now. If I were them, I'd buff one of these otter tokens and get in with more damage. They've chosen to buff the Mako, probably so they can block the Brynhildr. I don't think that's really that good of a choice here, so we're just going to punish them because we have a hasted Cruelclaw next turn because of the Brynhildr not being dealt with. So we'll just take 9. Why? Because I have a 4/4 lifelinker. And yeah, that's going to put me well ahead of them regardless. So we're going to play Cruelclaw here. We're not going to worry about this Brynhildr getting in because I don't want to trade it yet. I don't have Frostcliff Siege, so Brynhildr is my haste enabler here. So next turn I can play a Vestige from either Warp Zone or my hand and probably lock the game up. So removal here is pretty good. I have to shoot the Sheriff. If I were them, I'd probably block this turn. Yeah, so it's possible that Brynhildr would have not died, but yeah, see now we just get 2-for-1 them. I will discard probably a removal spell here, keep the Vestige just in case. This Betrayal is like actually really good right now because they have 3 talents in play. And that just removed all of their good hits next turn. So they actually have to draw something really good here because they can't actually do anything with these talents anymore. That was a pretty big high roll from us. All right, so they level up the talent, get nothing back. Into what's your card? A second Profs. All right, well, I'm pretty sure they're just dead because next turn I'll have 7 damage from the board I have right now because Brynhildr is going to sack itself off 3 plus 4, and then I'll play a Vestige, which is another 7 with haste. So I have 14 damage, they have 13 life. I believe that puts them at -1. So let's just go in, end the game, and yeah, kind of lock it up here. I think, yeah, this is not the greatest of matchups, but obviously I have a ton of sideboard cards for this matchup. Yeah. Turns out when you tech for VIVI and it's like 7 of your 15 sideboard slots, it becomes a lot easier to deal with. I don't like that we have to do this right now. It's pretty annoying. But yeah, Grixis Haste, not a bad deck. I think that a lot of the Grixis decks right now are actually pretty good, but you know, same situation here where it's kind of like Dimir. You do have to high roll all of your tempo, high roll all of your removal, but it does have red to deal with Dimir. Specifically, like Fire Magic is really good against Dimir. I'm not putting it in against VIVI because they can grow their stuff pretty quickly. But yeah, against Dimir, Fire Magic's really good. We can put in nulls for VIVI. We have Abrades, Intimidation Tactics, Duress. Yeah, and just like a ton of really big threats that are just like you have to deal with pretty much everything that hits the board from our side instead of just letting us like have one thing. Almost everything is a huge problem, especially like Brynhildr. Like it's a 2/1 that exiles a card for me. I've had it where people just like, yeah, I have to kill that because you drew a land, you know, like, so little things like that add up really quick from this deck. Obviously this deck is able to be enabled by any set because any card from any of the 3 colors can just go in. If it has an enter the battlefield effect or an attack effect, it becomes instantly like pretty good in this deck. Hence us playing the Cruelclaw and like dropping one of our haymakers for free. So yeah, it's a really good deck. Been playing it since you know, before rotation even. And when I saw Vestige, I was like, this is definitely going into the deck. It's definitely a banger. And yeah, this deck's really fun. It's gonna get a lot of steam once VIVI gets banned. We're gonna be taking into MTGO leagues pretty soon here, so keep an eye out for that. Anyways, hope you enjoyed the deck. More brews coming soon. We got a podcast on Wednesday as well coming out. And really appreciate any support, any likes, comments, or subscriptions. Also very appreciated. And yeah, see you next time.